Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking into something really fascinating, kind of a paradox from our sources on biblical prophecy. The idea that the wilderness, this place we think of as harsh, isolated, is actually where we find focus on what's truly important.
That's right. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to dig into Revelation 12. We want to see how this ancient idea of the wilderness speaks to, well, protection and preparation for people of faith today.
Okay, so the source material kind of throws us right into it, doesn't it? A spiritual battlefield. It talks about this big cosmic conflict rooted in Satan's scheme back in Eden, that greed and then his ongoing persecution of believers. That conflict sets the stage.
It does, but the good news woven in there is Jesus' sacrifice. It broke death's power, and then the focus shifts to this figure, the woman representing the church, the people of faith who has to flee. And Revelation 12 says she goes to the wilderness where God had prepared a place for her for a specific time, 1,260 days.
Wait, hold on. So if there's this spiritual war, real danger, where is this place, this prepared place of protection? Are we talking like a literal bunker, a specific spot on a map?
It's a great question, and the teaching is surprisingly clear on this. It's definitely not a physical location.
Okay.
The prepared place, as the source defines it, is actually the life of obedience. It's following God's word, God's guidance, wherever that leads. Protection isn't found somewhere comfortable, but in the act of obeying.
That's counterintuitive. Obedience is the safety. Is there historical backing for that idea?
There is, actually. A really powerful example is the fall of Jerusalem back in AD 70.
Right.
Jesus had warned his followers earlier, told them to flee when they saw certain signs, and the early Christians who listened, who obeyed and scattered, they were preserved, becoming sojourners. But many others stayed in Jerusalem. They relied on the city, its history, maybe its walls, as their safety. They perished when the Romans came.
Wow. So relying on the familiar, the comfortable physical place.
Yeah.
That was the real danger.
Exactly. Obedience, even leading into hardship and scattering, that was the protection.
Okay, and let's quickly touch on that time frame, 12,260 days, 3.5 years. Why such a specific, seemingly short period if this wilderness experience is ongoing for the church?
Right. The numbers there are generally understood as symbolic. They signify a fixed period of trial, a limited time set by God. It's not endless. And importantly, for any individual, the experience of this tribulation, this wilderness, is limited to their lifespan, 70, 80, maybe 100 years. It's tough, but it has an endpoint on God's clock.
This really does flip things on their head. Okay, so how can the source material possibly call a place of scattering and hardship a honeymoon destination?
Yeah.
I think Jeremiah 2.2 mentions something like that, recalling the Exodus.
Yeah, it sounds jarring, doesn't it? But it points to the spiritual value of the wilderness for the believer. Think about Israel in the Exodus.
Okay.
The text points out, there was no garlic for lustful desires, none of the comforts or temptations of Egypt. But what was there? Daily bread from heaven, water from a rock, and God's direct presence, his companionship. The wilderness forces holiness, in a way. It makes you discard the unnecessary, the distractions that comfort allows.
That focus, that's powerful. I mean, we live in a world of endless choices, notifications, decision fatigue. It's overwhelming.
Right.
The wilderness, by contrast, forces simplicity. It's like a necessary detox. It runs completely counter to how the world tells us to live.
Exactly. And the core insight here, maybe the psychological point, is that we tend to forget God when things are easy, when we're comfortable. So this forces us to rethink what blessing really means. The source is quite direct. True Christian blessing is not winning the lottery. It's not making a killing in real estate or, getting rich quick.
So the real blessing isn't about accumulating stuff, but it's about the clarity, that singular focus that the wilderness path kind of enforces.
Precisely that. Trying to build your own little heaven on earth by just getting more possessions. That's seen as a fundamental misunderstanding of the journey. The true path, the blessed path, is living that life of obedience to God's ways wherever you find yourself. The life of faith is a wilderness road, ultimately, but according to these texts, it's the only one that leads to heaven.
Okay, so this deep dive really shifts how we might think about protection, about holiness. It seems the safest place isn't a place at all, but that path of obedience, no matter how tough it looks.
It does, and that leaves you, the listener, with a really sharp question to ponder. What are your hopes really fixed on? What are you praying for? The texts essentially challenge us by saying, if your prayers are mainly for money, or acing that exam just to get ahead, or finding that shortcut to wealth, you've found a completely wrong address, as one commentary puts it. So what does this mean for you? Are you looking for those earthly comforts, the easy paths that avoid the wilderness? Or are you focused on walking that road, living as a witness, aiming for that holiness required of God's messenger? That focus changes everything.